What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jason Schnitzer, and this is the Husband Coach Show. Here is your next episode. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. What I've got for you today is my number one suggestion for you guys on how you can start creating a happy marriage. And it should be no surprise for you guys that have been listening for a while, but if not, welcome to the show, and I'll get right into it. And my number one suggestion for you, if you're looking to build and create a happy marriage, is to start cultivating self-control. And maybe that's weird for you to hear, maybe not. But here's my take. So I've always taken the approach of control the controllables and let things that are out of your control just kind of let the chips fall where they may. And, going through all of my own marital ups and downs and riding the wave, every time I get into something that was difficult, or I'd feel like I was up against, an undefeatable situation, I always tethered into or anchored into the idea hey, I can only control me, and I can only show up as the best version of myself to the best of my abilities. Am I doing that right now? And the number one thing that has helped me really be able to navigate more or less everything in my marriage, good and bad, is self-control. And really, self-control is just your ability to be aware of and have control over your emotions. It's do your emotions control you, or do you control your emotions? And that's a trick question in a way, because, we can't really control our emotions, but what we can control is our ability to notice them when they come up, and how do we respond to them, and how are we showing up in the world regardless of how we're feeling. And taking a legitimate look in the mirror in your life, in your marriage, in your business, with your friends, and it's how am I showing up right now versus how do I want to show up right now? And depending on that gap is going to be a really big indicator of the ability and the degree of self-control that you have in your life. And really, when I talk about self-control on a nerdier level, it's your ability to regulate your nervous system. So there's a lot of people that are talking about nervous system regulation now, and which I think is awesome, because really our nervous system, and you can listen to all of this, by the way, on my episode 3, Foundations of Self-Control. But I'll give you a quick summary, couldn't think of the word there, of what our nervous system is used for. And basically, our nervous system is our control panel for our body, okay? And if you're like myself, up until, the last couple of years, if you don't have awareness to why it does the things that it does, and for what reasons, and how that has shown up in your life in earlier years, and how it's currently impacting you right now, a lot of times I equate that to driving a car without knowing how the steering wheel works, how the accelerator works, what are brakes, how does the engine work, all the things. So it's if you don't know how your nervous system works, it's you're driving around your body without understanding why it's doing the things that it's doing. It's it would be like driving down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, not knowing that when you turn the steering wheel left, all of a sudden it jerked to the left, and then slamming into all the cars around you, and that would be a terrifying thing to experience, right? And most of us go through life doing just that because we don't understand self-control. We don't understand nervous system regulation. And what happens is a lot of times when we lose self-control, we say things and we do things that we don't necessarily mean. Like it doesn't feel like it's us. It's like outside of what we would perceive our character to be, right? You can be upset or heated and like maybe raise your voice and yell at your kids or yell at your wife. And then 20, 30 minutes later, all of a sudden think back and have this like immense amount of guilt and maybe even some shame. It's like, man, why did I react like that? Like, man, I love these people, but yet I'm like saying things to them sometimes that are like unspeakable, or I'm saying things in a tone and a way that just like, ugh, it just like makes you sick to your stomach, So when you're able to like learn self-control and really learn how to embody that and see how that shows up in your life, everything changes. All of a sudden, the difficult conversations, you're able to stay in the pocket instead of losing control. You're able to stay in the pocket, right? A lot of my clients, they'll talk about like, yeah, whenever my wife, she'll start giving me feedback, really, right? She'll maybe it'll come off as like complaining, right? Or nagging. Really what that is feedback, because underneath a complaint and like, let's say a criticism is like a longing or a desire or an unmet need. And when you learn self-control, you can stay in the pocket and not go offline because you hear something quote unquote negative. And they'll say things like, oh my God, like all of a sudden, like I'm able to navigate that. And then instead of having a conflict, it becomes an opportunity to connect with, your wife. And then all of a sudden, like she can tell you things without worrying about you flying off the handlebars, without you going from 0 to 100, without you getting defensive, without you, maybe collapsing because, you perceive that as criticism and you just can't handle one more negative thing in your life. It helps you build capacity to be able to like carry those things. And then all of a sudden you can start meeting your wife's needs and you can start showing up for your kids better. And you can start being, well, let's just call it a safer place for your wife. She can tell you anything, and your kids can tell you anything. They're not afraid of you. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, guess what? The natural thing that happens for men, at least in my experience, that's like they have more sex. They experience more intimacy with their wife. They have a happy marriage. Like that, they start feeling like, wow, like I actually have a happy marriage. All because, and it's not because they learned a bunch of these skills, all they did was starting to learn how to control themselves. And it's like amazing. What I think is so amazing is like a lot of times, like it's not counseling that we need, right? It's like we need to understand ourselves and we need to understand how we are showing up in the relationship or in the marriage versus actually the dynamic that's going back between you and your wife, right? Because like once you understand this and once you can start implementing it for yourself, then all of a sudden it's like you start changing the rules. And a lot of times you start changing the rules in a good way where it's like your wife's like, fuck yeah, I can get on board with this. It's like, who doesn't want to be married to somebody that's like totally in control of their emotions, and no matter what kind of shit is going on in their life, like they can have the composure and the understanding of like what it is that they're experiencing to where it's like, yeah, I'm fucking driving down the freeway 80 miles an hour under complete control. And like, not only is that like an awesome feeling, but it is sexy as hell for when women see a man actually in his power, being able to do that. That is one of the most powerful things that as the masculine you can provide to a feminine woman in a relationship. Because that is like, again, if you've heard me talk about masculine and feminine dynamics, when you are in your masculine, you are the cup. And when you're the cup and you're that strong structure, you allow your wife to be the flowing liquid, that flowing water that is held within the cup. And like she gets the opportunity to relax into that. And, especially nowadays with, how much women are in the workforce and how much women do take on more masculine roles, when you are able to really step into your masculine and give your wife an opportunity to be in her feminine, that just like goes extra long ways. And again, this I've seen it in my life and I've seen it in my clients' lives, where it's like sometimes it feels like a 180. Like at one point it feels like you're looking off the cliff into like, what the fuck am I doing? And then the next thing you know, after you start implementing this stuff and showing up differently, it's like your life and your relationship and your experiences are things like you're experiencing things that you didn't even know were possible, all because you took responsibility and you got the support you needed to start developing this skill of self-control. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in embarking on the journey on and learning how to develop self-control, again, I'd highly recommend that you go back and listen to episode 3, because I do a deep dive on self-control. This is one of the foundational pieces that I teach in my one-on-one coaching, which as of right now, mid-December, I've got spaces open for. You can check if I still have open spaces on my Instagram, Jason Schnitzer Coaching, or on my website. All of this stuff will be in the show notes, jasonschnitzercoaching.com. And if that's something that you are ready to step into, then reach out to me and let's get to work, guys. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll catch you on the next one.